So welcome back to the Tough as Nails podcast. We're here today with my good friend, Smitty Green Shoes Payne, legendary statewide bowler and beyond. So Smitty, first of all, tell us about the green shoes.
Well, I've always worn those, and those are my statement shoes. Whenever you saw me on the lanes, that's what I was wearing, my green shoes. I also had a pair of white, but I relate to the green ones better.
People feared you in the green shoes, right?
Because they were like, who is this guy? Who is this guy with the green shoes?
Like Joe Namath and the white shoes.
Absolutely.
So is that part of your thinking, to intimidate your opponents?
Well, basically, I always wanted to be different. I didn't want to be like the average guy with the same type of bowling shoes. So I actually had those custom. Those are custom made shoes.
And what year are those shoes?
Oh my God, Pete, those are probably, I want to say 1980s.
1980s,
Yes.
Not that long ago.
Yeah.
So tell me about your career and how you got started.
All right, well, I'm 68 years old now. I started bowling when I was 12. And how I got introduced to bowling.
And where were you then?
I was in Stanford. I was born in Virginia, but I moved to Stanford when I was 6 years old. So what was happening was I started going to the Boy Scouts, and as one of our trips, we went to the local bowling center, our troop. I had so much fun and interest in bowling that I came home, told my parents about it, and they were like, bowling, okay. And I went back again with the troop once again. And then I got my parents involved, so they started going. And what was good about it was, as a 12, 13, 14-year-old, after school, I would ride my bike, after I did my homework, ride my bike to the bowling center. And I'd go down to the bowling center, I would help out behind the counter, spray the shoes, sanitize the shoes. And when the manager said, Smitty, you want to bowl? I'd run over to a locker, because I had a locker there, get my ball out of the locker, and she put me on a pair of lanes right next to the counter so she could watch me. And she was older. She was probably, when I say older, I'm probably about 14. She was in her 60s.
So this was the beginning of a great career.
This is how it all started.
And as part of your career, I think everyone wants to know about the 300 game. So how many did you have?
I had, oh my God, what was it, 15?
15 300 games.
Yeah, correct.
And what was your best series?
824.
824?
Yes.
And how many over 800 series did you have?
I believe I had around 7, I think, what I remember. Yeah.
All right. And let me ask you this. When you're in the midst of a 300 game and you get to the last frame,
oh boy,
what are you feeling?
Well, I gotta say, the first time I was in that predicament, very nervous. Because back then, once you had the first 10 in your bowling league, now everybody, somehow or another, it gets through the bowling center. Oh my God, this guy's got, the first 10. So now they come down to behind you and they watch you. And you got the whole bowling center watching you throw your last 3 shots. I was told at a very young age, when you throw the first and the 10th, don't turn around. You just back up from the approach because you don't want to see all that stuff behind you.
So what's in your head?
I'm just trying to make good shots. I'm trying to make good shots.
Focus on your...
And not, make a bad one and look like crap, so.
How many 300 games did you just miss?
Oh, I have, I believe it's 4 299s, which again, 299, I still threw the ball good, made a great shot. It just didn't work out. And even though, and I have 2 298s, and those came from bowling in a league in Paramus. I bowled in Paramus for 2 seasons. Again, I don't know how I did this, living here in Naugatuck and driving to New Jersey on a Monday night. But again, I went wherever the money was.
So let's talk about that.
Yes.
You like to hustle a little?
I did when I was younger. There was times when I would actually go to a different bowling center and look for the pro that was at that center.
So you were like Paul Newman, Jackie
Yes,
Gleason.
yes. So
you saw that movie?
Yes, I did.
Were
yes,
you
I
like
did.
that?
It was, well, kind of, sort of, because if you're the pro in that center, saying that you're the man, and I come here, I don't know you. are you gonna back down because I'm challenging you? Like my favorite saying was, let's lace them up right now for 100.
Let's lace them up.
Let's lace them up for 100. So you can either say, no, I'm not gonna do that, but now you got to save face. You're the pro. So I would actually come there, bowl you 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, take your money, about $300-400, go home. Most of the time I didn't go to work the next day because I'm only getting 2 hours of sleep, because I'm going to Hartford, I'm bowling somebody in Hartford, wherever the case may be, or I might even still be in New York. But so I made enough money to say, okay, I'm not going to work today. That was what I did.
And you're also obviously a tournament player, so tell us about these rings up here.
Well, those rings are some of my accomplishments from bowling 300. Back then, if you bowled more than 1 300 a season, you only got 1 ring. So that's why I say I have 15. There's not 15 rings in there, because I bowled in a league in Milford, and this is back in, say, 1993. And this league in Milford, it has some of the best players in the state. And I ended up setting a record because we bowl a season. A season is 36 weeks. And in that 36-week period, I bowled 3 perfect games, which was unheard of. I was just on a roll, you know. And
no one wanted to lace them up with you then, right?
No. That was when I was in my prime.
Okay.
The 90s, I was awesome. You couldn't touch me, you know.
I like that. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this. Tell us about the game as it was then compared to the game the way it is now. The equipment, like golf, equipment changed the game. How does that relate to bowling?
Well, when I started bowling, there was basically only 2 types of bowling balls. There was rubber and there was plastic. And if you wanted to be a good player, it was more knowledge, more okay, I need to practice. There was more, I got to learn more about the game. Nowadays, there's so many different types of bowling balls out there, which makes the game a whole lot easier. Because now, instead of you having all the knowledge to bowl, it's now in the equipment. As long as you got a good ball and a good ball driller, he's going to make you good. The one thing I got to say about equipment now is he's going to drill you a ball for that particular bowling center. That ball he drills for you, say for Naugatuck, is not going to work in Fairfield. That's just the way it is, because all the lanes are different.
All right, we have an interruption here that we're going to get rid of. So, game now, game then. How would you be today if you could still play?
You know, it's funny because I'll tell you a story. Now, I wanted to. Now, I stopped bowling in 2001. So I was out of the game. And being out of the game for that long, I've seen the game change. The game has changed to the point where it would take me a while to get myself the knowledge to be able to compete like I did when I was bowling, because everything is different.
So if you had to put a percentage on it back in your day, what percent was knowledge versus natural ability versus, just focus and heart?
The one thing I gotta say is, when I was coming up, there was a few guys that were older than me. And when I came out of the junior program at the age of, say, 17, 18, and I went to the men's league and I bowled with my dad. But before I started doing that, I was actually going out, watching guys, older guys that I emulated to try to be like them. And there's one guy I gotta say, which I kind of patterned my game after. His name was Bill Dosimo. And, it's funny how I look at him now, because I'm 68, he's only 75. But back then, he seemed a lot older than me. But he was the type of guy, you talk about a clutch player and another one that bowled a lot of action. And that's the thing about bowling then. It was more knowledge, more ability, because you had to be, just be different,
So bowling career is over. Do you still watch bowling?
Most of the guys now on tour, a lot of the older guys I know, I bowled with some of those guys. When I bowled in Paramus, that league had some of the best talent around, and a lot of those guys were pros. So for me to be bowling in that league against those guys and actually holding my own, that said a lot about my game, And again, I'm a youngster. I'm like in my 20s bowling against these guys down there. But New York, New Jersey, there's a lot of bowling talent down there.
So I'm just going to say, as mayor, we're thrilled to have you in Naugatuck.
I appreciate being here.
We're going to have you lace them up with some new challenges for you.
Okay.
So
I'm looking forward to it.
thanks for coming today, and
Thanks for having me, Pete.
and also for the fans, one last question.
Sure.
I'm sure they want to know about your relationship with Brian Cashman,
Oh my goodness.
general manager of the New York Yankees.
You know, it's funny. A lot of people, when I say, you know, I'm good friends with, because first I'll say, "Are you a Yankee fan?" And they'll say, "Oh yeah, I've been a Yankee fan for so long," you know. And I was like, "Really? So, do you know Brian Cashman?" "Oh, he's the guy that plays third base." I'm like, "No, are you just like wearing the gear?"
Right.
So, but no, I've known Cash for about maybe 12 years. And how I met him was because I just retired about a year ago from the post office. And he was one of my customers. And I had this route, and one of my coworkers says, "Guess who lives on your route?" Now, I didn't really know because I had never done the route. But he says, "Brian Cashman, the GM of the Yankees, is on your route." I said, "Really?" So I went a whole year without seeing this guy because he was never home. And finally, when I saw him, it's kind of like me and you, Pete. We just gelled, you know? And I saw him, and I said to him, you know, "Hey, Cash." And he's like, and I said, "I'm going to be gone for a while. I'm having some surgery done." He says, "Oh, what type of surgery you having?" I said, "I'm having my knee scoped." And he said to me, he's like, "Well, when you get better, you want to come to some games?" I said, "Dude, I've been trying to see you all year," you know? So he gave me all his contact. He gave me his email, his cell phone, you know, everything there was to get in contact
So I
with
want
him.
you to call him for the rematch of the Subway Series.
Okay,
You guys,
okay.
they're going to need you there against my Mets.
Yeah, so no, he's a great guy. I know he has a hell of a job, and a lot of people will call me, vent to me about what's going on with the Yankees, and I need to tell Cash this. That's not my job. Cash is my friend, you know. I don't get involved in how he runs the Yankees, but he is. We text all the time. I go to maybe 2 or 3 games a year, and what it is, I try to bring, because my first time going to the suite, I was blown away. I said, "Oh my God, this is something." But now, to me, it's old hat. I've been down there 10 years. But I try to bring somebody different that's my friend, so they can actually see how
You're
it
going to
is.
get a lot of inquiries off of this podcast.
I'm
so
sure.
slow it down a little.
But, you know, I brought quite a few friends from Naughty to go to the game, you know, and, you know, I get a pleasure out of actually watching their face when he comes into the suite, because he's there every game, and he usually comes in about the second or third inning, and he'll come over to me and say, "Smitty, so who'd you bring?" I introduce my little group. You know, he signs some autographs, signs some baseballs. We watch the game. We have a good time, conversation, and not to mention there's food and drink in the suite, and we just have a good time. You know.
Great.
So
Smitty Green Shoes Payne.
that's me, baby.
Great to have you here.
It's been my pleasure. I appreciate you.
Lace them up.
Oh, sir. Yes, sir.